more now. Let's bring in Fareed Khan. He's with Canadians United Against Hate. Hi, Fareed. Good to see you. Thanks for being with us.
Thank you for having me.
Of course, you're joining us on a very somber afternoon. We're just learning about some of these disturbing details, and I want to get your reaction. London police calling this attack on a family planned, premeditated, and hate motivated. When you heard the news about this family that was killed by a man with a truck, what went through your mind?
Well, when I learned of the news, I was very emotional. It took me back to the way that I felt when I learned the news of the killing of 6 Muslims in the mosque in Quebec City. The fact that anyone can have so much hate in their heart that they would go out and plan such a heinous act is absolutely unspeakable. But it also shows that Islamophobia is real. I mean, there are people who still deny that there is Islamophobia in this country, and that there are people who are willing to commit acts of violence against Muslims. And this is the latest tragedy. We've had other attacks on Muslims in Alberta. We've had the killing of last year of a volunteer at a mosque in Toronto. So we have to come to terms with this. Not only people in the Muslim community, we have to take action, but Canadians have to take action and decide what kind of nation they want. Do they want a nation that gives people motivation to do these types of violent acts, or do we want a nation where we live together in peace? I'm just still reeling from hearing the news.
So we heard there a 20-year-old man charged with both murder and manslaughter. Is there some relief in the way police have reacted in arresting this person or this suspect quite quickly in the aftermath, and also in treating this as a hate-motivated crime? Often in these circumstances, we don't always see that language being used. I suspect that they have some evidence that makes it easier for them to use that language. But what's your take on how police are dealing with this case?
Well, I'm pleased to hear that the police are treating this as a possible hate crime. I'm also pleased to hear that terrorism charges are being considered, because whenever an act like this happens, and whoever it's targeted against, whether it's Muslims, Jews, blacks, or Indigenous people, it is an act of terror. The people are terrorized, and I'm sure that Muslims across the country right now are feeling a sense of terror and a sense of foreboding. And are parents going to be cautioning their kids to go out, or preventing them from going out on walks? Because this happened when people were out for a walk, and there was nothing, they weren't doing anything dangerous. They were just minding their own business, and this man decided that he was going to run his truck over them. So the reaction of the police so far has been positive, and I support it. But I'm hoping that hate crime and terrorism charges will be laid, unlike the case of the killing in Quebec City.
Yeah, you touched on something, and I have to wonder if these are conversations that people are having. I was just thinking back to the weekend when my family did exactly that. We went out for a walk after dinner, my husband and my stepsons, and we weren't thinking that we were in any kind of danger. I'm visibly Muslim. Do you think that this is a conversation that people are having about feeling unsafe? I believe it was the mayor of London did want to reassure people that London was safe and that they were standing strong with them. How important is it to have that messaging from leaders, and how do you think Muslim families are feeling tonight?
Well, I think it's critical for political leaders to come out and stand in front of a camera and a microphone and send a message that not only is this unacceptable, but we need political leaders to do more than just issue words. We need actions. The government committed some funds towards an anti-hate strategy, but we haven't seen much leadership beyond giving money. The federal government needs to undertake a national anti-hate strategy that includes public education, that includes giving more powers to police to lay hate crime charges when such acts happen, and also to change some laws federally to address issues of hate crime. With respect to Muslim families, I think that Muslim families, now that they've learned this news, are going to be having these conversations the same way they have had conversations every time a Muslim is attacked, and particularly families where, like yourself, where the woman is visibly Muslim who wears a hijab, because they're going to be very hesitant about going out about their business now that such an act has happened again in Canada.
You know, we've seen some calls, as you talked about, for legislation around hate crimes. We've seen, you know, certain groups designated as terror groups. Do you think that the steps that we've taken are in the right direction? Do you think that we're taking, you know, white supremacy and these hate groups as seriously as we could in Canada?
While the actions with regard to the terrorism designation of some hate groups is positive, I think we haven't gone far enough. There are other hate groups out there with white supremacist attitudes, anti-Muslim, anti-Black, anti-Indigenous, anti-immigrant, and they need to be brought under the umbrella of such designations. In addition, we made a series of 18 recommendations to the government when committees were considering the Islamophobia motion, M103, and there need to be changes that happen in terms of how governments, both federal and provincial, deal with such actions, not only in terms of what can be done legally, but also in terms of the education front. There needs to be a public education campaign. Immigrants make up more than a quarter of Canadians, and if you talk about the descendant of immigrants, that's even larger. Immigrants are critical to this country, and yet there are segments of this society which see people who are different skin color, different faith, as somehow being a threat. And yet we are all contributors to this society, and therefore Canadians who want to live in a peaceful society need to put pressure on politicians to get their act together.
All right, Fareed Khan is with Canadians United Against Hate, offering his reaction this hour to news that a family of four members of a family killed in a hit and run, police calling it hate motivated and targeted.